You must be thinking to yourself, I want to go to CRNA school, but there's so many questions I have. Well, in this video, I'm going to go through some top questions that people have asked on my YouTube channel to give you some insights, some information to keep you up to date, as well as what's going on with CRNA school, as salary, program status, and what things you can do to make yourself be a good applicant for CRNA school. So definitely keep watching. My name is Christine and welcome to a new video. It's your first time here and you want to become a CRNA or grow your CRNA career. Start now by subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss anything. So you must be having so many questions, maybe a little anxiety. You're just so curious about CRNA school, what's my expectation, salary of a CRNA, and more. So we're definitely going to get into all that information today and give you a nice breakdown of some of the questions that you have been asking, as well as definitely comment below with some information and questions that you have so we can get all of it shared to everyone. So definitely put that down below. So let's get started. One common question people have asked me on my YouTube channel is, how long does it take to become a CRNA? Well, it all depends on where you're at in your career. Are you in nursing? Are you not in nursing? So those are some variations that you have to think about. So if you, for example, you are a registered nurse and maybe you're in the ICU and maybe you have 1 to 2 years of experience and you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm ready to go to CRNA school and how long that will take me? Well, think about this too. Now there's differences in programs. Now there is a difference between a master's prepared program versus a doctoral prepared program, okay? So what does that mean? Now the programs have been transitioning into doctoral degrees. Now, of course, there are some few programs that are still master's prepared programs, which are great. This is less schooling. So the differences is, for example, if you're a master's prepared CRNA, it's about 2.5 years, while a doctoral degree, it can be 3.5 years. I've actually been looking at different programs across the countries, and there's a lot of variations. It could be 2.5 years, it could be maybe 2 years, it could be 3.5 years, it could be 4 years. There's a lot of variations, but on average, master's prepared program will be about 2.5 years versus a doctoral degree will be about 3.5 years. So it's only a year difference comparably if you want to get your doctoral degree. So honestly, it's a great option. And if you cannot find a master's prepared program, definitely go ahead and look for programs with doctoral degrees. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to have any more years of school. But you know what? If you want to become a CRNA and this is your dream, you got to make some sacrifices. And yes, you may have a longer program, but it's all worth it in the end, and I love being a CRNA. And you know what? I would do it over again. And the nice thing about being a doctoral degree CRNA is a lot of things that are a positive. You can do education, you can be a professor, it looks nice on your resume, as well as, even though you're a master's prepared CRNA, there's really, honestly, the salary difference is not really much of a salary difference. And of course, with CRNAs, there's such a shortage in CRNAs, so I don't think you'll have a problem finding a job either way. It's all about your experience, your ICU experience, and of course, depending on the institution, depending on if it's an urban versus rural area, naturally be more competitive. So definitely take that into consideration, what you're thinking about, okay? So another thing a lot of people have been asking, how much does it cost to become a CRNA? When you think about schooling, you think about a CRNA program. Is it expensive? Well, yes. That is true. It can be expensive. It depends on your preparation. If you're saving, so for example, you're an ICU nurse and you're saving and you're preparing yourself to be financially set. There are many CRNAs who have gone into CRNA school but never had to take out student loans. They prepared themselves, they saved, they budgeted, and they organized themselves in a way that they can pay full out to go into CRNA school. Now you got to think about this too, depending on the program. So public school versus private school. When you look at those two, of course, private schools are more expensive. It can be exponentially more expensive in comparison to a public school. So I'll give you an example. When I went to CRNA school, I went to SUNY Downstate College of Nursing in Brooklyn, New York, and my school was a state school. So and plus it was my state, I was a resident of the state. Therefore, my tuition was significantly low, comparably. So I think it was approximately like $5,000 to $6,000 a semester. So think about 2.5 years, you can kind of pretty much calculate that yourself. But however, you gotta think about fees and all those different things that goes into it. But I think tuition was approximately like $5,000 to $6,000 a semester. While if you think about another program like Columbia or a private institution, it's going to be a lot more expensive. It could be like, $15,000 to $30,000. I mean, it varies depending on the institution, because also you gotta think about it too. You're paying for that private school, and if it's an Ivy League school, it's prestigious. You gotta expect it to be more expensive. At the end of the day, in my opinion, it doesn't, if you really want to become a CRNA, something you gotta sacrifice. I mean, you try your best if you really want to get to a public school or a more or less expensive school, because of course, you don't want to have a lot of debt, when you graduate. But if you can't, get accepted into a public school because maybe it's more competitive, or maybe it's more difficult to get into versus a private school. If I had to do it, I would do it no matter what. Private versus public, if I had to do it all over again too, I would of course save more, especially when I was an ICU nurse. I would have saved more. Those are some things that I've thought about that, if I was in someone else's shoes, what kind of recommendations? That would be one of my recommendations, saving and budgeting. And I know you may be saying, saving, what does that mean? Even if it's a couple $1,000s, a year you try to save, or you put some money aside, because you never know when you're in school and you have some difficulties or something happens, or, you want to make sure you have something as an emergency, just in case. You never know what can happen. So you always want to prepare yourself for the worst. And another recommendation is, saying you got to go to a private school, it's more expensive. Look into scholarships. There's many scholarships out there to help you to become a CRNA, so definitely look into that. I would check out the AANA website. There are definitely scholarships there that are available to you. So definitely put yourself out there. If you really think about financial support, there are avenues out there. But definitely, private schools are going to be more expensive than public schools. And that's just, and also different programs, the way they, it may not be tuition, it may be per credit. There's a lot of variation. So definitely do your lead work, and definitely look at multiple schools and look at your options. Another thing, some people are saying, hey, Christine, I want to become a CRNA. I want to go to CRNA school, but I don't know how many years of experience I need to be applicable for a program. Well, in my opinion, what I've looked and I've seen, especially since I went through the route, I've met CRNAs, of course, in my practice. And on average, when you're looking at the applications and the acceptance rate, naturally, the more years of experience in the ICU increases your probability of getting accepted into a CRNA program. However, there are rare occasions where you can be an ICU nurse for maybe 1 year and get accepted into a program. I mean, that is a possibility, because some programs, they say a minimum of 1 year of ICU experience. But naturally, looking at the application pool, there may be more people who are, going into CRNA school, have multiple years of experience in the ICU. And therefore, the pool there may have people with more years of experience. So naturally, of course, there'll be more students accepted into a CRNA program with more years of experience. But there are rare occasions where people do apply to a CRNA program, the minimum of a year, and get accepted. Now, it's only not just that. It's not only the years of experience. Yes, that's important. It's about your ICU experience itself, how your experience it was. Was it a quality ICU experience? Was it a trauma center? Was it a teaching institution? Maybe it was a small hospital, but maybe you had a lot of sick patients. Maybe you had a lot of autonomy working closely with the ICU team. Were you actively involved on your unit? Your resume. Are you involved in research? Are you involved in your community? As well as your grades. I mean, grades are not everything. I mean, it is important. I mean, sometimes, I'll give you an example. For me, to be honest, my first year when I was in college, I didn't do the best. Honestly, I did really poorly. And because I was a part of sports, and of course, the first year of, when you go into college, some students, like me, may not take it seriously. And when I realized after my first year, and I was involved in sports, and I was very active in that avenue, my grades definitely suffered. But when I realized the importance of what I wanted to do, I really got some focus. My grades improved, and I did really well. So those are some things. I know maybe your first year of college, maybe you're not doing the best. But you can turn it around. You always can do that. And also, it looks good on your resume maybe your first semester, maybe you didn't do as well, but it's about progression and it's about trends and seeing how a lot of the programs, they may not look solely on that GPA, but you look at their overall academic record and you look and see, what are some things that, wow, maybe they didn't do as well in, for example, maybe they took an elective class, it was Hebrew Sciences, and they didn't do as well. But in pathophysiology or pharmacology, they got great grades. So, sometimes depending on the classes you take, and especially depending on the program that you're in. So definitely take that into consideration. Don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, GPA is important, but it's about trying to, get better grades. And if you have to retake classes that are required for a CRNA program, do so, because you want, end of the day is what you really want to do. And so you have to do a little sacrificing, do a little bit more legwork to get where you need to be at. If you are in high school and you're considering to become a CRNA, really meditate it, really know for sure if this is what you want to do. And when you get into college, really focus on getting good grades and do the best that you can. We're not perfect. We maybe go through tribulations in our lives and ups and downs, but as long as you try your best and you really work hard, you will succeed. It may not be right away, but you will succeed. And I believe in that solely. Another thing people have been asking me, how is the interview? What should I expect? So yes, say for example, you apply to a CRNA program, you got accepted to an interview. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to be accepted into that program. What that's saying is that, they're very interested in you, and now they want to see you in person and see if you fit the program. As well as let's see if this resume and grades or whatever it is matches, during the interview. So definitely take your interview very seriously. It's going to be, black or white. There's no gray. It's pretty much going to be asking you a lot of intense questions about yourself, about your resume, about maybe your research experience. Of course, they're going to talk about critical care management, and they're going to test you on that. And some programs, they will actually have you write an essay, give you a time limit. So definitely take that into consideration when you're thinking about, interviewing, because that's definitely going to be something that is going to be asked of you when you go ahead and have your interview. Make sure you're just professional, make sure you're prepared. And what I do recommend to prepare yourself for the interview is to really, your critical care certification examination. We all, some programs are required to take that review book. Really know it in and out, up and down, inside and outside. And also, if you have maybe you have a coworker you're working with, definitely have someone engage with you, ask you certain questions from that book, and test each other and go back and forth. And even if it's not one of your coworkers, maybe your partner, maybe your friend, maybe your children, or maybe a little game, and just really test you on it to prepare you for that interview, because it's serious and it's either going to make or break you. And since you've got accepted to do an interview, you want to be ready, you want to be prepared, and you want to be the best that you can be. So that's what I definitely recommend when you're talking about the interview. Another frequently asked question is, can I work when I'm in a CRNA program? Can I work and go to school? One of the things that I do recommend is to not work if you can. I recommend before you go to CRNA school, I recommend definitely preparing yourself, saving and working hard, work extra hours to save. But when you're in school, honestly, you need to focus on school. And it's hard to say that, especially if you're a person that really relies on, working and, to prepare yourself for, school. But I really recommend that you don't work when you go to school. Now, there are occasions where your first semester, depending on your load, sometimes you can actually work a couple of shifts. So I had a classmate, and he was able to work a couple of times throughout the first semester. But then as things has progressed throughout our program, there's no more working, even per diem or part-time or nothing like that, because it got really intense. So maybe your first semester, if you want to, maybe a couple of shifts. But honestly, if I had a recommendation for you, I would say not, because you don't want to sacrifice. Yes, you got accepted into a CRNA program. You did all this work to get accepted, and now you're in a program. You don't want to jeopardize your grades. You don't want to jeopardize, your future. And honestly, it is a very intense program, and you may think, oh, I'll be fine. You know, I heard nurse practitioner school is very easy. I heard CRNA school is very easy. Honestly, in my opinion, it is definitely intense. And so you really got to take it seriously. And so definitely I recommend not working if you can. Maybe your first semester a couple of times, but honestly, you need to really focus on your education, your studying habits, examinations, and of course, really knowing your information, because a lot of times, depending on the program, some programs are more front-loaded programs where they give you all of your didactics first, and then you do clinicals, while some programs are kind of a combination approach where, you know, you take classes and you do clinicals. And when it's that type of program, it's very difficult because you're gonna have school and then you're gonna have to do clinicals a couple days a week. And so this could be very difficult. So I definitely don't recommend it. Another thing people have asked is, you know, can I have a family? You know, maybe I have 3 kids, maybe I have, you know, I had a baby, you know, can I go to school with a family? Yes, you can. I believe you can. I did it myself. You know, I had a newborn baby, my beautiful baby Bella. You know, I had her 6 days before I started my program. And yes, it was definitely a hard transition for me. You know, especially being, for me, I was pretty invincible. First time mom, didn't really expect, you know, how it would be having a child in school. But if I can do it, I know you can do it too. The most important thing, I feel, if you have a family and you're going into a CRNA program, is support. You need to have that support. You need to have your family all on the same page, really having a strong family dynamic, you know, appropriate communication. Of course, with your program, you want to have a program that's very supportive to families and really willing to work with you, you know, when you have situations like that. Because I remember when my first semester, it was very difficult on my body when I had a, you know, newborn baby, especially with certain unique things that I required as a first-time mom with my baby. My professor, my directors, super supportive, never gave up on me. My classmates, amazing. And honestly, I wouldn't have been able to do it without that dynamic. And my family, of course, my husband, my, you know, my mother and father, you know, my father-in-law, everyone was on the same page, and they all were very supportive. And without that support, I wouldn't have been where I'm at today. You know what I mean? And I'm very thankful for that. And now, saying, for example, you may not have that dynamic. Maybe you don't have, you know, family or to support you. Well, I'm here for you. You know, you could ask me questions, as much questions as you want, you know, comment as much as you want. Send me an email if you have to, and watch my videos. I'm here to motivate you, because you can do it. And if I did it with a newborn baby starting into a CRNA program, I believe you can do it too. You just got to put the work in, got to sacrifice, and just look forward at the present as well as your future. Now, one of the big questions a lot of people have been asking, of course, is CRNA salary. So I have a bunch of videos on salaries for CRNAs, salaries with nurse practitioner, nursing. There's many different salary videos I have. So definitely check those videos out. But in general, when you're thinking about CRNAs and salary, you know, it's honestly constantly changing from month to month, year to year. And of course, it has been increasing over the years. It also depends on if you are a traveler versus a independent contractor, you know, maybe a full-time independent contract versus W-2. There are many variations in salaries. So definitely take that into consideration. But you're definitely going to get a very good salary as a CRNA. I mean, of course, you want to be a CRNA because you want to be an anesthesia provider and provide amazing care to your patients. But of course, a lot of people want to know, you know, I am doing all this work. Is it really worth it? And so to look at it, you're probably going to be making at least, you know, 150 to 300,000, depending on the institution, depending on the setting, depending on, of course, what type of contractor you are. Are you W-2 versus 1099? Those are variations. And it could be a lot lower because depending on the area, if it's a very competitive area, you know, you may not get paid as much. But sometimes some people are willing to, you know, do that because they want to be in a specific area. So definitely think about that. And that's just an average. You can get a lot more, than 300,000. Of course, you get a lot less than 150,000. So it's a lot of variation, but on average, that's what you're going to be looking at. Of course, the years of experience, that definitely makes a difference with the amount of money you're going to make. The more years of experience as a CRNA, of course, the more you're going to make. So I hope this video was able to answer some of your questions, and definitely comment below with your questions, and maybe we can get another video on this and I can answer those questions as well. But in general, I will try to answer your questions in the comments below. If you want to learn more about CRNAs and how to grow your CRNA career, definitely click one of these videos over here, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.